And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Babydoll live show for the Perustopia book club. Woo woo! Yay! Okay, so just to let you guys know, the first bit of the slideshow, like the first 5 minutes or so, we're going to be giving you guys our opinions on the books, but after that, it'll be spoilery. So if you do not want to be spoiled for this book, Reagan has her video out right now, a spoiler-free video of the review, and mine is going out tomorrow. So if you want to get a non-spoilery opinion on this and more detailed, just go to those videos. Mine will be up tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m., and then Reagan's is already live. So just go to her channel. Okay, perfect.
If you have any questions, before we get into the actual book itself, if you have any questions you want us to talk about, just go ahead and tweet using the hashtag Perustopia per usual, and we will get to those, or just comment on this live show itself, because we want to hear what you guys have to say about what's going on.
Yeah, we want to know what your opinions are, because I have so many things I want to talk about with this book.
This book was intense.
I know. Can I, like, start off this one?
Yeah,
because,
if you want to start with the synopsis, kind of give it a rundown.
Yeah, so, like, Yes, I will give them a rundown and everything. So, like, honestly, I love stories like this, not because of the subject matter, but about how they are portrayed. Because you don't really read that many stories about kidnappings and captivity, especially when it comes to having children in captivity. And yes, there's Room, and yes, there's Babydoll, but I haven't seen that many. And then there's a story about the seller. So this book, it takes a different take. And I know a lot of people compared it to Room, but I think it's actually quite different. So Babydoll is about this woman named Lily, who was kidnapped from her school when she was 16, and she was held in captivity for 8 years. And during those 8 years, her captor, who was named Rick, he impregnated her, and now they have a 6-year-old daughter. She's 6, right?
Yeah, about 6, I'd say.
Yeah, 6-year-old, and her name's Sky. So they were held captive for 8 years up until Rick forgot to bolt the door one day and they escaped. And it's about them re-assimilating to life and getting to know everything, because they've been gone for 8 years, and Sky, she's never even experienced life outside of the basement. So it's about them reconnecting with old friends and family and finding out things and having to deal with the media's attention and all this crazy stuff that goes on. So it's a very interesting novel, just because I expected it to have more of a backstory at the very beginning of it as to what's happening in the basement. But they didn't. It's mostly about, like, what happens after, which I found very interesting. So So I'm just giving my brief rundown of a spoiler-free version, and then Reagan's going to give hers. My opinion on this book is that I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was very good. I thought that the storyline was very unique, because usually in these stories, like I said before, they're about the actual kidnapping and then being held captive, not what happens after. So I found that really fun and really interesting to read about, because you don't really get that all the time. And I'm a huge nut when it comes to documentaries about captivity. I don't know what's about them. It's kind of like watching a car crash, which is like, that's bad, like what just happened, but it's like you can't stop looking at it. And that's how I find, like, this situation. It's like, it's good to know these things. So I really enjoy watching documentaries about this stuff, just because it's good to know. And so when I went into this book, I had high expectations, and a lot of them were met. My only issue with this whole entire novel is this plot twist that happened at the end that I will get into more detail about later on. But other than that, other than, like, the last, like, 3 chapters of the book, I loved it, and I totally recommend it to you guys. I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars.
Awesome. I totally agree with everything Sasha just said. I'm going to add an additional element to why I really enjoyed it so much. I totally agree. Like, I really liked the after storyline, kind of the reassimilation, and everything. And I also appreciated that this book follows multiple perspectives. We get Lily's perspective and her having to deal with all of the things Sasha just mentioned, but we also get her family's perspective as well as her captor's perspective. Her family's perspective was super interesting because, I mean, as difficult it is to obviously be kidnapped, she definitely bared the brunt of the tragedy. But a family trying to reconstruct and move on after one of their kids is tragically kidnapped is also really hard. And we had to see them deal with what they dealt with in the past, and also dealing with the fact that she's now home and the guilt they had, I thought was very well done. I just thought overall the book was so suspenseful, and I think it was especially suspenseful because we got to read from Rick's perspective. And I'm interested to talk about the plot twist with you at the end as well, Sasha. But overall, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a solid thriller. I was entertained throughout. I thought it definitely had a good hook. There was no point where I was like, all right, this is slow point. It was never slow. It was always fast. So for sure.
Yeah, and it was like not that long of a book, so it was very easy to get through. It was actually the only book I read this month because I've been in the worst book slump, but I was really happy when I finished it because I thought it was really interesting, and I would like to bring attention to the audiobook a bit. The narrators who are the audiobook narrators of the story are very good, and they're very good with accents, and they're very good at really defining each character in their own way, and there's more than one audiobook narrator. There's like 4, I believe. So I really enjoyed the audiobook a bit as well as reading it because I felt like they really meshed well, like hand in hand, which sometimes you don't get with audiobooks and physical books. Sometimes the audiobook narrator kind of takes on a different feeling of the book, and then you get totally different things.
So it's so cool that you read the audiobook. I like that. Yeah. I didn't know you read the audiobook. So we had 2 different reading experiences. We can talk about that.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm so excited. So,
what do you want to start with? There's like so much to talk about. Like
there's so much, and it was a short novel to have. Oh, I have something I want to talk about. Do you know that the author of this novel is actually one of the writers in Shadowhunters?
What? Really?
Yeah, somebody told me that. I need to check it, but somebody told me that, so I mentioned in my review. But it was like, what? No way.
That is crazy.
Interesting. Isn't it interesting? I was like,
small world. Do you want to just go by? Do you want to go perspective by perspective, or do you want to go like chronologically? Like, how should we attack the beast?
I think that we should do it chronologically. I think that'll be the best. Dad, is that Dad? Who's there? Hello, Dad. I'm on the live show. Sorry.
By Sasha's dad.
Here,
no, she's downstairs in her room.
Okay, come on, puppy.
Love you, Dad. Okay, so yeah, let's go by chronologically. I think that's the best. Or actually, maybe not. Let's do perspectives.
Right?
Yeah, let's do it. So, whose perspectives do we start off with?
Let's start with Lily. I think that's a good overall main character. I liked Lily. I think there are some I've read some other reviews just to kind of compare. Some people, I thought she was a really strong character. I thought she was flawed in some very interesting ways. And I also feel like how she kind of dealt with the emotional intensity of the experience that she went through in some ways was very realistic. I mean, like, she kind of got obsessive with trying to make herself perfect. In the middle of the book there, she was just trying so badly to recreate the past before everything happened, which I thought was really tragic. I thought she was really compassionate. I loved all the love she had for her daughter. I thought she was intense. Like, just reading her perspective and all the things she went through was hard sometimes.
Yeah, it was difficult. And like, because I really enjoyed how well researched this was, just because I've watched a lot of documentaries about real life happenings when this stuff happens, and this stuff does happen. These are like very realistic emotions that people go through during this type of withdrawal from their captivity, and I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, it's like how she tried to recreate these relationships she had before, and I thought it was very sad how 8 years is a very long time, especially when you leave when you're 16, come back when you're 24. And, 22. Was she 22? Wow. So, like, it was 24. She was 24. And so that's a very long time. She missed her, like, pretty much the main stages of, end of high school and all of college. So she didn't get to experience that. Her dad died during that time. And I thought that was, like, that hit me because I'm like, that is awful.
Tragic.
Not just for her, but for the family to like lose her and then lose the father. Like, it's so heartbreaking. So I agree. I think that her perspective was really great. And tagging along onto that was that her sister's perspective. I think that her sister's perspective to me was my least favorite, not because like I didn't like her character, but because some reasonings behind some of her actions that we'll get into later just didn't make sense to me. And I thought she was an okay character. I didn't like some of her attitudes towards like the baby and her attitudes towards Wes. What's his name? Yeah, Wes, the ex-boyfriend of Lily's. So like some of the things that she said and did, I didn't agree with. But of course, you have to not like one of the characters sometimes because maybe that's how the author wrote it.
So I kind of have a countering opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, she definitely, Abby, right? She wasn't my favorite either, but I also kind of understood her character a bit because, like, here she is. She's the sister. that for her whole life has felt she's probably blamed herself this whole time.
Yeah.
And she just kind of, or at the beginning of the novel, she's just kind of starting to get her life together because she kind of went on benders because she couldn't handle the guilt. Now she was kind of coming to terms with it. And then her sister comes back, who, of course, all she wanted in the world, but now she's real again, especially finding out everything that her sister had to go through, and she re-blames herself, she re-hates herself, and starts lashing out against all these people, and doesn't know how to deal with it. And then, ultimately, her action at the end, I feel like, was her way to try to atone for everything, to make sure it could never, ever happen again. Like, just making sure for her sister to make sure it would never happen again. I thought it was a little much, but we'll talk more about it later. But I kind of liked her because I just felt like she was an interesting
character.
She was an interesting character to show different types of aftermath to tragedy and what guilt to people. Someone is playing, what is the song? Someone's playing a Michelle, who sings this? Michelle Branch? If someone hears like a classic 1,000 Mile song in the background, it's because someone's playing Vanessa Carlton so loud outside, and I do not know why.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's
They're
just
probably just like loving it.
through my windows.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, why not? Some background music. Yeah, like, I could definitely understand where you're coming from with that. Like, that grief does, like, hurt, and she does blame herself, and I totally understand that. The reason that she wasn't my favorite, just because, like, I think it's mainly because I really get into the characters, and, like, I want to become them, but sometimes when a character does stuff that I know I would never do, and I know that's kind of bad sometimes, but I like to see, like, traits from characters that I could relate to, and I just couldn't relate to a lot of her traits, but, yeah, I do agree, like, that she's something that she really regrets, and that keeps on continuing on and on, even after that her sister was taken. So it just, like, builds upon her. Yes, and then let's go to Eve, because Eve is another interesting character. We did not get that much Eve, but we did get some Eve, and we got her, and she's kind of cynical. What? Wait, what'd you say?
She was probably my least favorite. She frustrated me the most. Like, I guess I just hate cheaters. So when she had the affair, when it first happened, like, I understand she was broken and it was tragic, whatever, and she was her own way of lashing out, but I don't like that. I don't know. I don't like it. And then it happened again, and I thought she was almost, by doing it, jeopardizing the investigation. Like, if the prosecution found out about that, they maybe would have called collusion or something like that. And I was like, this is not worth your children's happiness and safety. So she, versus, like, I kind of understood where Abby was coming from. I kind of understood where Eve was coming from. Like, her pain and her guilt as well, I could get. But how she pursued it with the affairs and stuff, I just didn't. I guess it was just another way to be constructive, and she was kind of very dependent afterwards. Yeah. And that I kind of resented more than Abby. But I don't know. It's just a matter of I thought she was interesting.
She was definitely an interesting character, and honestly, I agree with you. Like, she was another one of my least favorite characters, and that's not just because of her point of view. It's just, like, the decision she made, and I feel like the whole entire family just fell apart after that. Everybody fell apart. Everybody went there, did some bad things and went their own ways. But yeah, she was the one who kept on doing some bad things, and I feel like she never felt any remorse for it, like, never any serious remorse. While Abby, she did feel, like, regret for sleeping with her sister's ex-boyfriend and then getting pregnant. So there is that type of stuff. So I thought that was, like, interesting how each character had something that they needed to get over. But Rick's character, do you want to start off with Rick?
God, Rick, I don't think I've hated someone in so long as much as I hated Rick. I mean, he's, like, textbook, sociopathic, crazy guy. And, like, you know about these villains. They exist in movies and stuff. Like, I've seen it. But to read from these people's perspectives, it's, like, chilling. Because you're just like, how can anyone be this evil? Like, he's just pure evil.
Yeah, he's pure evil. And, like, honestly, I remember I wasn't done reading the book yet when I watched your review, and I was watching, and you were so just, like, affected by his character. So I was, like, reading his character, really analyzing him, and, like, I don't know if it's me being, like, I don't know, I feel like I watch lots of bad stuff, like, bad as in not bad, like, programs, but, like, bad, like, situations with crazy people in them. I thought that he was a very, textbook, like, sociopath, very, like, evil guy, but I'm like, I was surprised by some of the things that he came up with in his head, and I thought it was really interesting how he was the teacher of Lily, because
I know.
majority of the time you know your children's kidnapper.
I think the thing that got me the most with him was just like his pure audacity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he did it in his town. He kept teaching. Like he paid for. He like donated to the memorial. Like pure audacity of it all. And then like I was so nervous reading through it because he was just cocky the whole time. Like he was like, "I'm gonna get out. It's not gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a problem." And because I believed him for being able to do it, I mean, he had a whole plan to escape. Like he was able to orchestrate something. So maybe if Abby didn't do what she did, he would have gotten free.
Yeah, and like for me, like him, I thought he could have gone a step further and been like even more like creepy. Even though he was creepy enough for me, he was very creepy, and it made me like kind of be like, what the heck? But like honestly, I would have been like, I would totally believed if he like had other victims where he cut off their skin and wore that, because like he's just seemed like the guy who would do it. And so I was waiting for that.
He's like one of those characters that is incredibly charismatic too, so it's just like creepy. Like he's just creepy because
especially kidnapping the other girls. Like I did not expect that at all. Like I
found that like. Can you remind me? Did he keep them in captivity or did he let them go? Like what happened with those other girls?
So this is the thing about the book that like the ending kind of got a little jumbled for me in the sense of. There's a lot of like just loose ends hanging off, and so this is one of the loose ends that I'm like, I wish there was more backing up it earlier on in the novel. So he said that like if Lily did not abort the baby that she had and kept it, like he would tell them where the other girls are, and then he happened to have some other girls in captivity. And I'm like, I understand like his reasoning behind that, because he said like, oh, I need some other girls to keep me like excited and keep it all fresh. But like I feel like it was kind of just thrown in there at the end, kind of like,
was he just lying? Maybe
no, he wasn't. No, the girls were actually there. And they found the girls, and then they were able to rescue them, and they were one of the people who testified against him. And so like it was like really like it was just really
like a whirlwind. I guess I just missed that or something.
Yeah, it was really like just thrown in there, I feel like. And following that, I just like would like to explain my perspective on Abby's decision at the end. So like
bad decision, but
I know. Yeah, okay, so like this is what I've been looking forward to, not because like the rest of the book, like the rest of the book is great. This is why this part really confused me. And that was when Abby at the end, they caught him, he was gonna get sentenced for life, and I know that he had this plan to get out, but Abby, she just had a kid. She just had this baby boy. Her life was all together. She looked really happy, and so was everybody else. And then she saw Lily just kind of have this look on her face that she translated it into thinking Lily's still in love with him, or Lindsay, not Lily, Lindsay, not
Lily,
too many L names. Lily was in love with him, and that will always be on her mind, even if he was alive. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid reasoning, because even if he was a part of her life, and that's never going to change whether he's dead or alive. And when she like stabbed him with that knife to kill him, I was just like, okay, she's throwing away her life, and she's going to make it traumatic for Lily. Yeah, her child, who is a newborn, 6 months old, and then also Wes, whose life like they were getting it together. And I
agree that like I disagree with her. Her like decision. I think it was the wrong decision for her to make for her own life. But I also just feel like that was the only way I feel like Abby felt like she could ever repay her sister. Like to ever like wash herself of like, she was like, I have to make sure this can never happen again. And the only way that can happen is if he's gone.
Yeah.
So, like, I get her reasoning and like kind of her psychotic break of when it happened. Do I think she should have done it? No.
Yeah.
Her whole life. But I wonder how long something like that would happen in prison, because it was like, I don't know. Like she surely wouldn't get sentenced for life for that. I don't think he gets sentenced that long.
No. She got like because it was like a psychotic break, quote unquote. She was just put into a mental institution, and then she like is gonna get out. But like what I found so like unreal, some things in this book I found semi unrealistic. And that was the first part was when she was allowed to go to the house that she was held captive in, and she was allowed to go. No, she was allowed to go to find Rick. That would have never like flown.
Yeah, it would have never happened. But they even said like this is against protocol.
And I was like, So like, but like I found that kind of.
I kind of liked it though, in terms of like drama. I liked him being in his class and him like seeing her and like.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I think that was really interesting, like how that happened and how he's like kind of chill and act like I
also get why. It's because like if she was afraid if she told them, they wouldn't believe her because like he's such an esteemed person in the community. She wanted to be there and make sure.
And she didn't have any trust, so it's like makes sense why she would be untrustworthy, like trusting towards people like this. And he's so a big figure in the community, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like going back to Abby, I really liked, like, I enjoyed her character. Like, her point of view wasn't my favorite one, but I enjoyed her character, and I enjoyed who she was turning into and her character development. I was really enjoying that. And at the end, I felt like that was a plot twist that could have been more implanted earlier on in her points of views, because she was planning this for a while. I wish that they had that more in those point of views.
Yeah, I guess. And I guess it's like the argument would be by the author would be like, well, then it wouldn't have been a plot twist if we knew about the meditation of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like it's difficult to play around with that. Like right now, I'm writing a part in Zenith where I need to implant like some stuff into it that will become greater later on, and you have to be very careful with the wording, but it is possible. And I wish that she was kind of more like maybe a line that's just like he deserves to die, like and say that more than once and really believe that.
At least express the feeling of it.
Yeah, exactly. Or I know she was in the courtroom when that happened, but I think that maybe if he did manage to escape, maybe she somehow finds him and stabs him like when he escapes.
Oh, like after like track him down, like sorry, buddy. Freedom.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Not today.
Should we see if there's any questions? Because we've already almost been talking for 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I just got really into it because that last part I wanted to.
I know, like. There's a lot to discuss with this book, for sure.
Yes. Do you want to go on the Twitter, or should I go on the Twitter?
You go on Twitter, and I'll look on the thing. If you guys have any questions, I'm looking at the chat right now. So,
and I'm looking at the hashtag. Did you think that the West Lily Abby triangle was weird?
West Lily, I kind of thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to see what West was going to choose.
Like, it was, like, uncomfortable. I think it was just more uncomfortable, and I think it was supposed to be uncomfortable. I think everyone was supposed to be uncomfortable about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was awkward, but I also, I mean, like, I get it. I get why Abby would start seeing Wes, because really, who else would understand what she's going through besides Wes, and then shit happens, you know?
Yes. And, like, the thing is, like, the way that she talked about Wes, Lily, she talked about him in such, like, an ethereal light, that he was her everything, and she loved him, and she still loves him, and she thinks about him even, like, even today, even 8 years later. And I felt like that was, that she loved him more than he loved her later on, because he was able to move on, because he was in reality. He wasn't kept captive. So that's why I think that he had every right to feel the way he did towards her sister.
And I feel like for Lily, it would have been actually unhealthy for her to date Wes out of captivity, because he turned into something that wasn't like a relationship partner. He turned into like her fantasy life best that carried her through. So if he, at one point in the relationship, she would eventually realize that the idealized version of him in her head isn't going to match.
Yeah. Who he is. And like it would have been way too rushed too, like after captivity. And I think that the relationship she ended up being in with that like veteran was so great, and I was really happy that the author added it in, because I think that was very smart to do, because it shows that she has moved on, but it just took her as like much time as she needed, and she still is like has those insecurities, and that's so realistic that I was very happy about how it was done.
For sure. Yeah, I thought that was a nice ending, because like she had such tragic life, and so it was nice to see her be able to kind of have a life, like start pursuing something, like make up for lost time, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a question over on there on your end?
Let me check to see if anything. Guys, you guys are talking about things that aren't having to do with a book.
I have one if you want me to say one.
Yeah, say one more.
Do you find Rick's chapters uncomfortable at times?
I mean, I think they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was definitely uncomfortable reading them, but like, I think if anyone was comfortable reading that, they'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. I found them so interesting because they're so at odds with everything else, because he had everybody had different perspectives of the story, but he had a total opposite one than the other three characters. So I thought it was interesting.
He had really interesting, like, he broke up the story nicely, because he just offered kind of a fresh aspect of the story, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that the way, like, it makes me question, I'm like, does he actually really truly care for Sky as his daughter? Because I think that he does to an extent, but I think that his sociopathic tendencies does restrict that to a point. And it's more like he may not care for the daughter, but he may care because the daughter is
part of him.
And part of him.
I think he's just so self-absorbed that like he cares about his daughter because it's like, oh, this is, again, it's just associated with him. Like, I made this.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, you know what? Like, that is so, that's just like creepy, but it's also like, well, what do you expect from a guy who does this to the little girls?
She was worried that he would start doing stuff to Sky.
Yeah, and that's like, that's so realistic. That's such, I remember reading that when I was listening to it on the audiobook. I was driving to like physical therapy, and she was saying to the police, like, she was worried that when she got like breasts and when she started like looking more like her mother, he would turn his like attention to her, and that scared her. And I'm like, that's so reasonable. That's what you should be scared about.
Mm-hmm.
It's so creepy. He's so creepy, and especially that he took some other girls. Like,
so creepy. The creepiest.
Yes. Let me know if you have one.
Sorry. There's just
I have one if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead. There's just a lot of like non-related, but great conversation happening.
Yeah, you're like, I like it. So this one, I'm going to kind of twist a little bit since we already talked about disturbing from his point of view. But like, what was the most disturbing part of this book you found? The actual question was, were there any parts that you found disturbing? So what was the ultimate disturbing part?
I mean, just any flashbacks. Anytime she had to talk about her experience, it was like really disturbing.
Yeah, especially how we beat her and like kept her chained to a bed for 3 months.
I know.
Or 6 months. It was one of those. I'm like, what the heck?
A long time. It's scary.
It's so scary. Do you know what I think would have been an interesting twist on this? I know that he's like, he was supposed to be seen as like this handsome teacher. What if he was so like creepy and ugly and like one of those like typical creepy guys?
I think I kind of like that he was so charismatic and beautiful.
Yeah, like
it makes it more like you assume. You know, you have the stereotype, and he kind of breaks the stereotype, which makes it.
And it was interesting. Like, how many teachers have driven you home? Like, I've had like at least 2 teachers drive me home. All of them are women, but like still, like, and you never know. But like, I've had some teachers
drive me home. I guess I went to public school though.
Well, no, this is like
common. If a teacher asked me to drive me home, I'd be like,
I went in my middle school. One of the teachers drove my sister and I home, and she's super sweet. She tutored us now and then.
Yeah.
And then I know that I've been offered rides by teachers because my mom or dad or somebody couldn't pick us up until like later. So like those teachers, like that was in high school, so it's more like understandable. It was like a small Catholic high school, but like you never know. Like they could be super nice and super charismatic and super just like the best teacher you ever had, but it kind of is creepy that you will be totally trusting in them.
I know. Can you really trust anyone?
Like, can you? Can you really?
Can you? Okay, well, it's 6:00. So, do we want to say any final thoughts or anything, or do we want to just go ahead and talk about our next books month?
Let's talk about our next book this month. I'm super excited about it.
Exciting! Let me go grab it.
Yeah, I have it. Where is it? Here we go.
Right here.
Yes.
You ready?
Mm-hmm. So,
1, 2, 3.
Oh, it is Furthermore by Tahara Mafi.
This is really exciting, guys. So this is our September book of the month. So we'll be reading it, and we will be talking about it, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, if you guys want to know a little bit about it, it's about a colorless girl living in a colorful world. And it's a middle grade, and I've heard it's amazing from so many people. So I'm really excited to be reading it. It just had its launch event the other day when I was in New York, but I couldn't go to it because I was in another launch event. But I hear that from so many people, it's an amazing novel.
Yeah, it's just like one of my favorite things to read of all time are always just fantasy adventure stories. So I am so pumped to be reading this. It's right up my alley, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it, and so many of you are excited to read it too. It's going to be so much fun.
Be so much fun, and I'll be linking it down below once this live show's over, so you guys can go buy it and love it, and then we're going to discuss it later. If you want to join the book club, if you haven't already, we'll be linking it down below as well. It's on Goodreads, and we just mainly just update you guys as to what we read on there, and you guys do your own discussions, and then we come on and we talk with you sometimes. But if you want to go add that on Goodreads, you can. It's down below, and make sure you go subscribe to Reagan.
Hey.
course. Hey, she's there. She's there. I think that's it. So we're so happy we got to do this. I know we missed a month for the Perustopia. That's because we gave ourselves a month off.
Yeah,
But we have so many good books lined up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So we're so excited, and thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next month with another live show.
Woo!
Woo! Okay. Bye, guys.